Finally here, the console movement guide. I know you guys have been waiting for this and asking for this for ages. Like nearly every video I've posted, I've had some person asking when is the console movement guide, but I'm finally doing it. This will probably cover nearly all of the techs you know and love, and I also want to cover a couple unknown techs that a lot of people don't know but can be kind of practical at times. If I'm bad at explaining things, I'm sorry about that, but either way, I hope you learn something from this video, gain something from this video, and you can implement it in your own gameplay. Enjoy. Timestamps are also in the description. Okay, so this is going to be the first tech. It's just slide jumping. I mean, I'm sure you guys know this, but if not, all you need to do is just hold down slide for about 0.5 seconds and then tap your jump button. It's really that simple. But the timing of this is really important for slide jumping, because you could time it right and get something called a dead slide, like that. That's called a dead slide, where your slide doesn't fully extend to where you want. So you want to make sure you're timing them in about 2 to 3 second intervals. It can depend. So if I go like this and then try to slide jump again, it doesn't work. So just try and, so let's say you're running from a team and the team is there.
Contact.
You're gonna time your slide jumps about a 3 second interval apart from each other, so that way you can gain the most speed away from them. Okay, well, I know a lot of you guys may think this is the basic part, but this is how you do wall bouncing. So all you want to do is, so let's say your wall is here, right? You want to slide jump at the wall and basically just tap your jump button. So when you reach that wall, when you're in that midst of the jump, when you're in the air, you want to tap your jump button. So that way you just simply, and you want to let go of all your controls. See, letting go of all your buttons is one way of doing it, but often I would just keep my finger on the stick, and as I hit the wall, I hold backwards. So that's one variation of it. Another variation you can do, let's say you're coming from the side, which is a lot more practical, because doing it straight isn't just you're not going to have many situations where you're like that. So a lot of the time you're going to be up against the side of a wall. So what you want to do is run against the wall and put your movement input whichever way you're going. So let's say I'm wall jumping to the right in this situation. I'm going to want to put my stick to the right when I touch the wall, instead of just completely not touching any sticks in general, or moving it backwards. But yeah, that's basically wall bouncing. Now we're going into certain types of wall bounces. So this wall bounce is in my opinion, this is the most effective wall bounce out of all of them. Sure, this is good, but it puts you in a bit of a predictable pattern. When you're going back down, the enemy can kind of just, especially since you're on console, I assume, they're just going to 0.6 you. If you go like this, they can pretty easily 0.6 you. It's only good for really a surprise factor. So this is going to be fatigue bounces. Basically, what you want to do, whenever you jump, right, you see how I'm getting lower and lower every single time I jump. Every single time I jump, I'm getting this fatigue thing, right? That's why it's called a fatigue bounce. So what you want to do is, let's say, for example, you're healing behind a door, and the door is here, and you're healing, and the enemy's trying to kick the door down. What you can do is, as your bat or whatever is about to finish, you can jump, and then let's say your wall is here, the door is here. As you jump, you want to go up against the wall, go forward, and then hold your backwards input or your movement input. So you can do it to the side, you can do it backwards, it's up to you. But let's say like this, if you go like that, then you get that jump input. So you don't actually need to have that whole slide jump. Instead, you can just jump once, go at the wall, and you get that that effect, that fatigue effect. So in my opinion, this is one of the most effective. I mean, you can do wall bounces without fatigue, which is what I will go into after this. But in my opinion, fatigue is the most unpredictable, because a lot of the time they're expecting you to just slide out, or just they're not really going to expect you to just be able to instantly wall bounce into them. So yeah, that's fatigue bouncing. So now we're going to go into wall running, which, I mean, in my opinion, is a bit of an underrated tech. But if you're not Revenant, then it's understandable that not many people use this. But this tech is just simply wall running. So what you want to do is you want to jump, do a normal wall bounce, and then as you are would usually spam jump, you want to take like all your buttons, all your hands off the buttons. You don't want to touch any buttons when you're on this. You don't want to touch the jump or anything. So you only want to do that normal slide jump into the wall as if you're wall bouncing. And then instead of pressing jump, you just want to use your movement input or your movement stick, and you want to just wall climb, basically. You want to put it to, let's say for me, in this example, I'm doing it to the right. So like this. And then you still get that kind of like that height effect. You're still going like up and down rather than just like coming off of it, which can be a bit of a common thing if you're not timing it right. So let's say I'm going to the left. See, in that where I didn't go as high as, let's say I'm going to the right. I get a lot higher. It can just depend on whatever wall you're doing it on, but either way, it's a bit of an underrated tech. So all you want to do is slide, jump into it, and then hold your movement key. So as long as you have that like timing, you just need a bit of momentum, but if you can get it right, it can be really powerful. Like, and let's say with rev, obviously it is a lot easier. You can just go like that, but with normal characters, you get more of that bounce upwards. See, with rev, you don't get that actual bounce. So in my opinion, with other characters, Wallrunning can be like just as effective. Okay, now we're going to get into Supergliding, which I know a lot of you guys do know, but I know a lot of you guys cannot get the timing down on it, which it can be difficult because it's kind of like, it's a 0.1 timing kind of thing. So what you want to do is, let's say you come up like to a ledge, so anything you can climb, basically. It can be small, high, whatever, but usually around something of this, or this box
Let's
here,
explore this way.
one of those two, like, work around that height to just get the surprise factor off of it. But what you want to do is you want to mantle the wall or climb up the wall as you normally would. But instead of just, you know, not pressing anything and climbing the wall, when you finish this climbing animation, so when your screen like just stops shaking, when you finish that, you want to hold jump and crouch. Those are the two inputs. You might want to hold jump just before or just after crouch. But for me, it's usually just a same time thing. So you hold them at the same time, and you go forward, just like that. It's just kind of an instant boost of movement. It's really good for surprising your enemy, or just like, you know, whatever. It's just, yeah, it can be a really powerful tech, but at the same time, it can be kind of predictable. Like so let's say the enemy is here, you don't really want to be just straight supergliding into them, because they're just gonna laser you, because you're just going in a straight direction, you're just gonna get lasered. So that's where sideways super glides come in, which I will do after this section. But make sure you learn proper just forward super glides. Before you actually learn sideways, you have to learn just the forward ones, just so you have those down pat, so you can get them like 9 out of 10 times. But yeah, that's super gliding. The main tip I have for it is just make sure you don't have to pay attention to the sides, but kind of just in your peripheral vision, you want to like keep notice of when you finish. It's when you finish the climbing animation. It's not like midway through. It's when you completely finish that climbing animation. That's when you hold jump and crouch. Because a lot of people I see do it like a lot before, and they get something like this where they're stuck in place, and then you can just. But yeah, that's Supergliding in a nutshell. Now we're gonna go into a more advanced type of Supergliding, which I think is a lot better, and it surprises enemies time and time again. A lot of the time you'd have your enemies, let's say you're using this box for cover, they're gonna be looking here, you know, aiming down sights, trying to pre-fire you, whatever, and you're just gone. And they're looking left, right, they have no idea where you went, because a lot of the time console players are not the smartest. But basically, what you want to do is the same thing for a normal Superglide. Everything's the same, the timing, everything. But the only difference is you want to hold your movement input, whichever way, or your movement stick, you want to hold it to the left or the right. Obviously, you can do it somewhat to the left, somewhat to the right. It doesn't have to be like exactly like 90 degrees left, 90 degrees right. But you want the general direction of left or right, or whichever way you want to go. But all you need to do for this is just hold your movement input, hold your movement stick to the left or the right, and you get that, which is just a lot more powerful than even if your enemy's here and you're doing it to the side, it's a lot better than just getting in your enemy's face, because they, most of the time, will just end up like beaming you and .6ing you with a normal super glide. But with a sideways one, often then they're just turning heads, like they have no idea where you went. So you can do it left or the right, it doesn't matter. But either way, it's one of the most powerful techs, which I think is kind of underrated. Not a lot of people use it. A lot of people just know how to do the forward ones and don't bother doing the left and right ones. So that's sideways super gliding on both sides. A movement tech I actually missed is ghost strafing, which can be powerful. I don't use it much in my gameplay, but I thought it'd be good to know and good to put in the gameplay and in the guide. So the way you do this, and credit to Newy TV, by the way, you can look her up on YouTube. She's actually the founder of this movement tech. But the way you can do this is you would slide as normal, but you want to hold the direction key that you're going into. So for example, for me, it's going to the right. So I would hold my directional key to the right, stop your slide. So once your slide actually like stops, working completely, then you want to jump into the wall, and then you're good. So for example, if you wanted to do it, and let's say I'm using this wall, then I would go like this. And you kind of get that, tap strafe ability. It can be good, but at the same time, it is a bit slow. So it can be easier just to go like that and just slide into it and then wall bounce off of it. But this is still a pretty cool way, and maybe console's first look at just how tap strafing would look. But yeah, that's ghost strafing, at least with the wall bounce. But yeah, just thought I'd put that in there. Now we're going to move into some more advanced techs, at least like on the ground. So if you made it this far, congratulations. I hope you've learned something from this video so far. But this is going to be the Faide Slide, which a lot of people know about, but not many people actually use in game, even though it's very powerful and quite practical, because often you can be put in these situations where you're kind of playing a PvP game with your enemy. So let's say your enemy's here, right? You're shooting some shots, they're pre-firing you. You want to often wait for them to reload, finish their mag. You want to wait for them to just, like, if you can notice they've stopped shooting, what you want to do is shooting, you holster. You want to stay crouched when you holster, uncrouch, slide out, and then you can get a bit of a and it 100% catches them off guard, because they're going to panic and switch to a different gun or start just jumping around. Often they just don't know what to do. So I'm going to show it to you in full motion. So this, shooting, crouch, uncrouch, and you get a free beam on them. So you just want to be fast with holstering. So for me, I have my 2 paddles, and then I also have my holster just on triangle. So I have to take my finger off the joystick for it just for a second. But it can depend on person to person. You just want to make sure your holster is easy to grab. If not, then you might want to start playing claw, because holster is an extremely important part of playing this game, because holstering, like, even that little bit of movement speed can let you win that fight or escape from that team. So I'll show you it one more time. So shooting, holster, come out, and then you get that instant kind of slide. Just instantly. Instead of... Okay, now we're going to move into air strafing, which has potential to be powerful, 100%, but obviously it's budget tap strafing. So I'm just going to show air strafing and one of the most practical methods that I used it in, like normally in games, especially when I'm on Octane, because it works the best with the jump pad. But all you want to do is, when you take this pad, you're going to want to move your joysticks to whichever way you're going to want to strafe. But you're going to want to do it slowly. You can't have that instant, with tap strafing, you can just take the pad and then jump straight to the side. This one you have to ease into it a bit more. So I take the pad and I'm slowly moving my sticks, and then I can get over here, which, is a lot. Obviously you could say, oh, you can just take the pad and take it this way straight, but that is very, very predictable. Especially once you've used your double jump, you are just like a free target where the enemy can just laser. I have many clips of me just beaming people out of the air, because it's just a predictable pattern. But at least with this, you're not as predictable, and you can kind of catch a bit of a surprise on the enemy. But that's air strafing just with the jump pad. Here's air strafing with Wraith, which isn't as powerful as Horizon. I mean, with any character, air strafing isn't as powerful as Horizon because of a passive, but I'm going to go through with Wraith and Horizon. So with Wraith, a lot of people do it subconsciously, but for example, when you are in the air, you have the ability to change the way you move, change the direction in which you move. So for example, if I wanted to slide out at this dummy here, or this enemy, I could slide, jump, and then as I'm in the air, strafe. So I need to make sure you're using that movement input, so you're holding your stick whichever way you want to go, and you want to put it to the side, instead of just doing a straight slide jump out. It's a lot more predictable. At least with this, you have a bit more potential for surprising the enemy. And then now we move on to Horizon, which is obviously 10 times more powerful and very, I mean, this is the reason people play Horizon, because of how busted her air strafes are on console, because it can be very hard to track, and the strafes she can do, even just in normal gunfights without wallbouncing, supergliding, doing any fancy strafes, it's still extremely powerful. So for example, there's one that a lot of people use. Let's say you choose a gun and you're reloading, they would jump and do this kind of 3 or 180, like you would move to the side. So you just want to do basically, you want to move your stick like this kind of motion. So like that. Obviously not that wide, but you want to move your stick like that so you can kind of get that momentum. So the enemy's probably expecting you to just, you know, somewhat just go side to side, but at least with this, you kind of move both ways. And then another couple of techs could be this, where you are doing a tight bunny hop. This isn't very practical. If you want to actually like aim in with your gun, it can be a lot harder, because obviously you're using while very complicated strafe is going on, but it can be very effective. Let's say, for example, if you have a laser sight, then it can be a lot more effective, because hip firing with this can actually because you can see the enemy a lot more. But it's a good strafe, which can be utilized very easily. That's air strafing in a nutshell, though. Obviously, I didn't go into full detail and depth of it, but you guys can look in the comments and find any other uses of air strafing. Please comment down below if you know any cool text that you can use with air strafing, or things that I didn't point out. That's what the comments are for, so put it down below. This is another one of the niche movement techs out there, but it still can be good. It's very situational, obviously, because you need this part of the door. You need this kind of door exactly to do a Snuggle Bounce, which is what this is called. But it works the same as kind of like just a normal fatigue, but you get more momentum from it. So let's say if I just normal fatigue this, I get like here, right around here. But see, if I fatigue jump as the door is opening, so you want to press your interact like before you fatigue jump. So let's say I jump, then you tap open and wall bounce off of it, you often would get lag, which doesn't help because, you know, consoles aren't really built for this movement tech, but it still can be good, as if you go like this, you still get the momentum off of it. As you see, I didn't do it there, but if I do it, you'd still get the momentum. See, look how much further I get. You still, obviously this is a lot better with tap strafing, but see there, I still got a lot further than I would if, let's say I just wall bounced into it. I go a lot further if I can wall bounce into this as it's closing. It's very, very strong. Like, it can just completely juke out enemies. But yeah, that's basically Snuggle Bouncing. It's a bit of a niche tech, like I said, but it can still be good, as you saw, and it's good at surprising the enemy. Okay, now we're gonna move into the zip part of movement, which is arguably more fun, but it may not apply as much. obviously because World's Edge is in rotation right now. But the movement text that I show can still be used in like places like the cage, in the zips there, or on Broken Moon. You can mantle jump off a lot of the zips, but a lot of these texts can be useful in other maps. It's just mainly useful in World's Edge. So the first tech we're going to look over is Superjumpinng, which arguably is the easiest movement tech. And if you don't know how to super jump, you 100% should learn it, because people going up the zipline like that, just like that, then you're going to get lasered. If someone's just sitting here or on any floor, you're just in 100% one of the most free and easy targets to track. So how to super jump is, as you run up to the zip, you want to be holding your interact, right? Whatever your interact button is, for me it's my paddle, but you want to be holding interact. And when you reach the zip, when you get this, like actually touch the zip, so let's say you're running from a team, you know, you're running, and you holding interact, and you want to double tap your jump, so you get that kind of, instead of just, you know, going like this, this, where it's just doesn't give you as much momentum. If you run into it, then, see there, I didn't even do a super jump. I just did a normal zip bounce. Those kind of zip bounces can be good, but super jumping is often a lot more practical. A big tip though, if you are, you know, trying to super jump, you can't super jump while you're in the air. So for example, let's say I'm jumping, even though I'm double tapping my jump, I can't super jump. You have to actually touch the floor for at least like a second, not even. You just have to be like standing on some sort of ground when you do the super jump. Otherwise, it just won't work. The super jump won't work in general. So it can be really good and makes it really hard to track. Instead of just going straight up, you're moving from side to side. If I go like that, obviously that is completely hypothetical, but it's a lot harder to track than if you're just going straight up the zip line. Now we're gonna move into the more advanced side of zip movement. A lot of people know the super jump, but they don't know how to do much else. Obviously, it doesn't make the super jump any less powerful, but it's still somewhat, you know, somewhat advanced. But here we're gonna look at the mantle jump, which a lot of people want to know. A lot of people recently are trying to learn it. The timing is very difficult. Obviously for me, my muscle memory isn't as good because I haven't been on World's Edge as much, but I still can hit it fairly consistently. It just depends. See, that was an example of a failed mantle jump. So a lot of the time, me included, I would fail at the super jump part. So the inputs are, when you're going up the zip, you want to get into this kind of mantle position, right? When you're here, this is the exact position you want to be in. Obviously, you can do it more practically, you'd be on the top floor, right? You'd be here. When you're here and you see this frame of like, you see this part of the top building, right? You can see it for like a second. What you want to do is look down and then hold your backwards input and super jump. So the inputs are mantle, look down, hold back, super jump. And then when all put together, you get a mantle jump, which sends you flying out. It's extremely useful, especially if there are traps, like a caustic trap on this floor, like there, or if there are just trap legends, it's extremely good. People camping the roof, it can also be really good for that, because it catches them completely off guard. No one is expecting it, and it's just generally a powerful tech. But I will make sure you guys know this tech took me ages to learn and actually get down. So if you can't get it, go into the firing range, or you can go on a map and do zips without without a roof. And speaking of which, I will show you guys how to do a mantle jump looking up. It's pretty much the exact same, but the timing can be different. It can vary from zip to zip because these may be a bit higher. But for example, in this one, it's the same thing. You want to do the same inputs, so mantle, look back, and super jump, but you're just going to want to be looking up. You don't have to be looking straight up. You can kind of look like around this distance, but you want to be looking up just like that. These mantle jumps are a lot easier because you don't have a roof to block you, so it makes just doing the mantle jumps very, very easy. So if you are having trouble doing those with the roof, then you can simply just move onto these, which are a lot easier and you can get them more consistently. So once you have actually got these ones down, then you can move to the ones in Streamer. Obviously, I know a lot of you guys don't have a custom code, so if you don't, then there's a place in the firing range. I'll put it up now, but that place can basically just be, it's a budget kind of stream building spot. It has kind of the same floors, and yeah. Now we're going to move into a type of mantle jumping, which I think I've only seen 1 or 2 people actually use this in-game. And to do this on console, I've absolutely destroyed so many people using it. And a lot of people are surprised when I do it, because they have no idea how. But most people think that the mantle jump can only be performed on, like, the top floor, right? How you go outwards on the top floor. But a mantle jump can be done on any floor possible. So, for example, let's say if I wanted to do it on the second, I can. And you can just come out. And if I were to do a proper mantle jump on it, see, you kind of just extend out right at them. I understand it's in their face, but they are not expecting it at all, and then you just laser them. So you can mantle jump on any floor, just keep that in mind. So let's say there's like a team camping outside the door and they come in. You can just come up the zip, super jump up, mantle jump, and then laser them. So just keep in mind that you can do mantle jumps on any floor and it can be just as effective. It's still catching the enemy out by surprise, but it's still very, very advanced and very, very strong. Now we're going to move into a bit of a different part. So not mantle jumping, we're going to do elite jumping, which isn't as practical as mantle jumping, but it still can be pretty good. So let's say there's a team here and you're running away, right? You've just come out of the zip, you're running. What you can do is, the inputs can be a bit hard, but you want to slide into it, right? So you slide into the zip shaft, look back, you want to look down and back, and then you want to look up as you interact with that zip and super jump. So let me explain it again. So it's slide, jump. See, I can't even get it 100% of the time, but you want to slide, look down, and then look up. Not straight up, but you can look up a bit. So you look down, and then you super jump. So you should be able to get it at least on this, or you mantle that. So that is a failed version. That is one without the super jump, but it still can get you out, so it still can, surprise the enemy, but that version isn't as often powerful or strong as the other version. Like that. See, you get, a mantle jump doesn't really get you off, but the elite jump does actually completely get you off the building. Often. It depends on, like, the slide strength, but as you can see, if you go like that, then it can be, it's still very strong, but not as strong as mantle jumping. It still can be a good tech to learn, though. Let's say you're getting chased, you can just go like this, and they have pretty much no way of tracking you. You can get down there and heal or pop a bat or whatever. But that's elite jumping, still a very strong tech, but one that isn't as strong as others. Now this is the zip bounce off levels. This doesn't have a name for it, but it is still very, very good. Only recently I've only started using this as, when World's Edge was in rotation, but it's still really good. It can be a lot less predictable as a super jump. So basically, you want to interact with the zip, turn around and mantle this, look up and go, okay. So you look up, once you've mantled this, you look up and then hold backwards, interact with the zip again and do that same thing. And you should be able to just go up the floors like this. Here, I'll show you this now. So you want to go like this. Just like that. It sounds a lot more confusing than it actually is. You're just holding interact, mantling, looking up, and then holding backwards and interacting again. So if you hold backwards, then you can just climb up the zips. So let's say there's a dude on 3rd floor and he's peeking. You can just do this. And then if you want to go down, you can hold crouch. Instead of interacting then jumping, you don't interact with the zipline at all, and you can just hold crouch to go down. So let's say there's a dude on the 3rd floor, you can just crouch and then go like this. Spray him. So this is actually a really useful tech. I mean, it's mainly useful in this building and any other buildings like this with floors. But if they do, then you can do this and it will just be basically untrackable. Like the enemy can pretty much not track this. It's very, very hard. And it's very unknown, which I think is dumb because it's a very good tech. But yeah, that was the zip bounce off levels. I'm not sure if this has a name, but yeah. That was how you do that. This is also a similar tech. This is called zip dancing. I believe that's what it's called. But it has the same kind of concept. It's just a bit of a different use. Often you'd use this with a shotgun, not so much a spray weapon. But what you want to do is, so you want to mantle. You want to actually mantle the thing, so until you like can only just see this floor. So you've mantled it. So in this position, right, you can see the floor and they can barely see you. They'll see like your head at most. And then you want to shoot, crouch, and then hold backwards. So then when put all together, just like that. It's very strong because they barely get a view on you. And then you should be able to just get a free PK shot. So often this works when people are just like looking down at the zip, because a lot of people are expecting you to just go straight up. So if you were to just do this, shoot, you should be able to get an easy 99 if you're using a PK or a Mastiff, whatever it is. You can still get like, you know, a pretty free shot if you're using a shotgun, a wingman, whatever. But it's one of the more underrated techs out there, especially the fact that it's unknown. But zip dancing is very strong. I've seen Riri use this a lot, but not so much console players. But if this were to be used on console, which I've seen people use, then it is, yeah, a deadly weapon. This one is a bit of like an underground tech, I like to call it. Like a lot of people don't know how to do this, and it can be somewhat situational, and it's mainly flashy, but it is very cool for clips or just somewhat surprising your enemy. So when you're going up the zip, you see these side parts, right? These little side things. You want to just jump at them and then wallbounce off of them. And then you should be able to get like maybe a PK shot off. So you jump at them. Obviously, it can be hard because you get launched out automatically. But if you get the timing right when you're at the peak of the zip, then you just want to jump out at them. It works best with Horizon because you have that air strafe. But another idea is you can wallbounce off of this or this. Wallbounce. So you can do it off any of those, which also can be good. But it can be kind of a panic thing because you don't know exactly where your enemy is because your camera is facing this way. So it's not as powerful, but it's still a strong tech and can be very, very cool for clips.